Hello everybody, this is Erin Dimond, and first of all I just want to thank you all so much for tuning in. Jordan and I have been wanting to do this podcast for a really long time now. My major form of outreach has been through Instagram for the last 5 years, and it's just a way for you guys to get in our thoughts and in our heads and get to know us a little bit better. So we really appreciate it. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to get on here and ramble sometimes on our own. We're going to have a lot of inspiring guests, and we're just really excited about this.
Yeah, and starting off here, we thought the best way to introduce you guys to us is interview style between Erin and I. So how we're going to start this is I'm going to basically vet Erin today. I'm going to get her to reveal a lot of things that you guys probably have not heard from her, given Instagram is her main form of social media outreach, and it's limited. There's only so much that can be written and shared. So we're really going to dig deep into Erin's story because it's really interesting. You guys can learn a lot and be inspired by it, learn her mistakes, learn her things that she's overcome. Yeah, and so stick around, and then the part two will be my story. Some things that you guys definitely didn't know about me, seeing how I'm kind of new into this social media space. And I'll explain some things that I've learned in this time, as well as other business ventures that I've been involved in. So yeah, we're going to get started. And again, like Erin said, we've got some badass guests coming. Some that have already been recorded, some that we have scheduled, so we can't wait to share that part with you guys as well. Starting off, Erin, you're obviously in the fitness industry. I think most of you guys listening to this probably know that. And it's interesting because Erin started from the bottom, to quote Drake, and she has reached a point and overcome a lot of obstacles to where she's had, 400 or 500K years in the fitness space, online coaching and other avenues. So learning how she started from nothing to opening a gym to this and that, it's going to be a great story. So explain to everybody how you got your start in fitness.
So I started in fitness in college, I guess. Well, I played sports in high school, all that, same story as everybody else. In college, I would go to the gym 2 to 3 times a week. I was never that serious about it. And then something inside of me just got bored. I decided to run a half marathon. And that was a lot of training, so there were times, I was out for runs for an hour or so. It took up a lot of time while I was working full-time and going to school full-time. So I just got really, really used to being busy. And once training for that was over, I was like, all right, I need something else here. So I started lifting more seriously and more consistently, and got really obsessed with lifting after that. But I just loved cardio from that. So I started going to spinning classes. I did TRX, kickboxing, and that's kind of the start. I don't know how far along you want me to go.
Well, what was it that originally sparked your interest in lifting? Was it the results? Was it what about lifting sparked your interest alongside cardio? Because I think cardio is kind of obvious. People get the runner's high and all that kind of stuff. What was it about lifting that really made you stick with it?
No, that's a good question.
Erin, explain to us a little bit what was it that actually drove this addiction to lifting? Was it something to do with your competition venture after that, if you started competing, or was it just a thing that mentally you became very attached to?
So I don't know if I became as obsessed with lifting until after I competed for the first time.
I don't know, or maybe people that are new to following you, that you did have a very long competing career, or not necessarily long, but very jam-packed. You competed, 10 times over the course of 2 years?
Right, yeah.
So that probably created some momentum, I would assume, as far as lifting goes.
Right. Before that, though, I was lifting before competing, obviously. But I think it was after the first year and getting up on stage next to girls who had a lot more muscle than I did, and just seeing what was possible. And being really good at competing before I even had much muscle. Kind of like, okay, I want to get serious about this now. Unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of my technique down with things, and I just went in and lifted really heavy and have a nagging knee injury now because of it. But yeah, that was the spark for lifting, I would say. Yeah,
and around that time that you were competing, were you out of college at that point, or were you still working? Or were you working at that point?
I was finished with college at that point.
So you were working for a technology firm, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So busy, 9 to 5 schedule, having to pack your meals, having to go in and out of work and try to jam pack cardio and lifting and all the variables in together was kind of your lifestyle, right?
Yeah, but like I said, it started in college, and I got used to being really, really busy. I've always loved that. I would pack my bag in the morning, leave for my internship at 7 a.m. No, I'd have to get up for a run at 5 a.m. So I'd run, I'd leave for my internship, I'd come home, and then I'd work another job And then I would lift if I had time. But I just got so used to that, like living out of my car, and I didn't know any other way. So when I started working full time, it was kind of the same thing. I was like, well, I can't just have one job. So
Right.
I really enjoyed spinning, kickboxing, TRX. And this was actually a huge moment in my life when I was just working there, didn't love my job, but I had such a passion for, these group fitness classes. I had never considered teaching them. I just liked going.
Yeah.
I was in there one day early, helping move some of the bikes around, and the owner of the place came up to me. I'll never forget this. Husband and wife owned it. It was such a cute little studio, Pi Yoga and Fitness in Dublin, actually. And the owner comes up and he was like, why don't you teach here? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I don't know, you're ripped, you get along with everybody. And I'm like, okay, like, what do I have to do? And he goes, well, just like start with a kickboxing class. And I'd never even taken one of their kickboxing classes. But just like the way he was saying it to me, like, made me sit back and say, well, you think I can do this, so maybe I think I can do it.
Yeah.
Or I should think I can do it.
And that was just a random parking lot conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I got, made it from passion to that. And, I remember I taught several classes. I was terrified the first time. I had all of my notes and went through. I was like shaking. I was so scared because...
And so this was actually your first transition from it being a hobby to like your first paycheck from fitness.
Right. And those paychecks sat in the desk where I was supposed to pick them up for a month because I was like literally just like, this is just fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. And yeah.
Well, I think that segues into your probably altruistic pursuit of fitness as a career. Is that, even at the very beginning, it was never anything like, hey, I'm doing this just so I can make money. It was, you already had a job. You were doing it because you're passionate about it, and it was fun.
Yeah.
And I think that genuine approach is really what allows people to thrive in this industry,
For
especially
sure.
early on. But you went from there to transitioning into a career, of course. Talk to me a little bit about the nutrition store and how that was a part of your life around that time.
Yeah. So from there, I was teaching these group fitness classes and had competed at that point. No, I had not yet. I had started shortly after, but I was putting things out on Facebook. I didn't have Instagram yet.
Was Instagram around yet at this point?
It was, but I wasn't on it. And I had like a friend of a friend reach out to me and ask me to train a group of her and her friends in a park. And I'm like, well, I mean, I teach group fitness classes in the studio. I don't really do anything like that. But she's like, well, just like whatever, run us through something. We can do walking lunges, blah, blah. This girl, she's very athletic and thinks herself. She played college soccer, so she's like, I can help you, kind of. But really, I just want my mom and my best friends, and it'll be fun. Like, okay. So I took that group of women to the park and trained them there for free at first, for fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then
how many of them total were there?
The biggest the group got was probably like 13.
Yeah, that's pretty good though.
It was so much fun. We did hill sprints, we did all kinds of fun stuff. And then they started asking me to train them individually. At the time, though, I didn't have any place to take them. So we would stop throughout the cold months, throughout winter, and then we would pick back up. I think we did that for 2 years. And then in 2011, my boyfriend at the time was working for a nutrition store. We were opening a new one, or he was the general manager for one, and they were opening a new one in Dublin. Mm-hmm. The second half of the store had about 1,000 square feet in space that they were originally going to use just like as a warehouse space. And he's working there. He's there all day. It was actually like right close to the studio where I was already training. So like my job was there, my studio was there. I was like, I had a ton of like people that I knew right around town there. And so I just asked him, I said, can I just put a gym back here? Because it turned out that they didn't need the storage space. There was nothing back there. And I was like, can I just throw some equipment back here? So we literally got dumbbells off of Craigslist that were like so rusty. We tried to sand them. We painted them. We did all the stuff. We had dumbbells. We had a half rack and we had a leg press. Mm-hmm. And I brought those girls into that gym and they thought it was awesome. Like just to have like even weights. We did stuff outside still, but that's like where we started and where I started training them. That
is really interesting. So what steps from there led into the 3,000 square foot facility that is formerly known now, right?
It's still open
Okay.
now, and 4,000 square feet.
Okay.
Too small either way. So from there, we acquired a lot more equipment in the back that way, just buying and selling things off of Craigslist. And it was towards the end of 2012 where one of those situations we were just in the right place at the right time, had the right connection to the right person. Actually, a customer of the nutrition store came in, and he knew the guy who outfitted the Cleveland Browns training facility with all of their equipment. And he knew, we were like buying and selling equipment. We had outfitted the back of that space that way, and he just said, "Why don't you reach out to him? Like, see if you can buy it." And I was 24 at the time. So we thought that was absolutely crazy. But we tried, we threw a bid in, and I think it was like $13,000, which is really funny, and just how everything happens for a reason, because I had literally just paid off my student loans about a year prior.
And how much did you pay off in total from the time you graduated?
It was like 33 grand out of OSU.
And that was making, what, 50 grand a year?
I was making 37 at my full-time job.
And you did that in how long?
A year and a half.
That's something to take note of, that these student loans are a crippling device that the sooner you pay them off, the better. And if Erin can pay $30-something thousand off in a year and a half, just a note that I wanted to touch on, because that is pretty impressive.
Yeah, and it's really the only thing that allowed me to have the confidence to do that, because I could have maybe at that age gotten a small business loan, maybe, but I don't think I would have. I just grew up terrified of debt and wanted to pay those loans off. I had literally just saved like 15 grand, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna spend it on this. So no, I think it was 18 in total, because we had to pay movers to bring it back. So that was how we essentially got the deal, because they said, sure, if you can get people to move it, take it off our hands, we don't care. We don't need the money.
Right.
So we bought that equipment from them. We put what we could in that 1,000 square feet studio. We put a bunch of it in storage. We sold a bunch and made back our investment times 2 or 3. And we had all of that equipment in storage for a future facility. So that sat there for about a year and a half. Until we really got the opportunity to kind of pull the trigger on it. Yeah.
Now that's pretty cool, and that's a point that I want to kind of raise, in that, if you want to, say for example, open a gym, and say that that's a dream that you have and it's an aspiration that you desire, it's not going to happen from sitting around and planning to open a gym per se. Yeah, that should be a big part of your strategy, but getting involved in the fitness industry, whether that's working in a nutrition store, meeting people, networking with people, and just getting your name around, and you never know what kind of deal you're going to walk into. It's not going to happen from sitting back and saying, well, once I have the money, I'll do it, or once I have the facility in mind, I'll do it. Get involved, get out there and connect. Yeah. And those are when the opportunities come, and you know that you're in the right place at the right time, when it is the right place at the right time.
Right. We literally started with 3 pieces of equipment and took people, and just built it as we went. And, it made a great story, and our clients loved it. They were so happy to support us. I eventually got to the point where I was able to quit my full-time job, and I was doing mainly online training at that point. But I had, a revolving door of clients in that studio, because they were just so excited that we had built it the way we built it.
Yeah.
They wanted to support
just
something
so
like
organically, and young kids taking risks. That is pretty cool. So that went from there to, obviously you quit your job, your clientele was growing. Explain a little bit around that time. Like, how many clients would you say you had around that time? And talk a little bit about what the online training space was like around there. Were you still marketing on Instagram?
Yes. So I started my Instagram after my first competition prep season. And I realized, and I did that just basically because there was a whole fitness community on there. Not a big one, nothing like it is today, but there was, a small little niche, and I had 0 friends in fitness. When I competed, I knew one other girl who had ever done it. So I was like, this is really cool. Like, I can meet people online. I followed all the people who were in my class and stuff.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you probably had a lot of your base core friends that you'd grown up with around that time who probably didn't see eye to eye with what you were doing.
Right.
There's probably a lot of temptation in your face asking to do this and that didn't coincide with what you ultimately were trying to achieve. So you had to make those tough decisions early on. Yeah,
yes and no. I was just so damn busy that I didn't have time for friends between working 70 to 75 hours a week and competing and everything. So that was a choice. But that was still a choice that was hard to make.
Yeah.
I had to turn down a lot of things because that's what was important to me at the time. I lost a lot of friends because a lot of people didn't understand.
Yeah.
It was definitely a pivotal point in my life. But what's funny now is all of those people who didn't get it back then are so incredibly happy for me now for chasing, just a passion and an idea.
Sure. Yeah, and that's always cool to see them come around when that happens. So talk about a little bit about, again, you put everything into this small startup at the time that was starting to grow, especially your online fitness business. Revenue was growing, I'm assuming, enough for you to quit your job. At that point, where were you at with your Instagram, with your income, and then what transitioned into this being a pretty lucrative career and actually growing into something very serious?
Yeah, so that was in 2012 when I first started my Instagram. It was just for fun. I was putting my story out there, posting about every workout, and I was literally doing that for myself.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, it's free accountability. It's a really fun way to connect. Like I said, I didn't have any friends in the fitness space. And it just started to draw interest. This was in 2011, 12. There weren't really many people doing online coaching at the time.
Yeah. It's interesting. I want to touch on something just real quick. Gary Vee talks about crushing it. How the best way to build a platform when it comes to social media is a lot of people will say, well, I'm not in good enough shape to start marketing myself yet or start putting myself out there. I don't know enough or this or that.
I know what you're going to say.
You never had that mindset. You started documenting probably when you didn't know shit.
Yeah.
And you documented the entire place through. So now you have followers who probably followed you from the very beginning.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to be the most diehard.
For sure.
They're going to be your tribe, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something important for anybody, especially who's thinking about marketing themselves, or not necessarily marketing themselves, but documenting social media, and you feel like you're not ready yet. Well, when you're not ready is the time to do it.
Right. People love a good story.
Yeah.
They love to see your struggle. They love to see everything you went through. And that's, I have people ask all the time, how'd you build your following and this and that? And people just like a good story.
Yeah.
I told every story of my life. And I've always, been very introspective. I've always liked to write. So it was literally like Dear Diary at the end of every day or 4 times a day.
Yeah.
It was just fun. So,
and you never had to put on a face. You never had to pretend to be something you weren't.
Yeah. So it was documenting from my second season of competing to opening the gym. I mean, I posted photos from the time it was a bare building to when we got everybody in there. And you do that every step of the way. You share every win, and more importantly, you share every loss and failure and struggle. And people, they root for you. They want to see you win. And I think I built a little tribe in that way. And at the same time, was able to build a pretty successful business out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, around that time, I've heard you talk about each year you were doubling your income, consecutive years, year after year after year. And that's pretty powerful. How much do you think that the gym helped with just overall business, with you marketing yourself? And was that an intention originally, or did it just kind of turn into that?
No, the gym was a dream. I mean, it was a pipe dream. I had absolutely no idea that gyms didn't make money.
Yeah. And
at first I didn't care that it didn't make money. It was a dream, and I was following a dream, and it's what I wanted. So it got to a point where it was great from a marketing standpoint, because with the Arnold here in town, I could invite anybody in there and network with people, and I had something to offer. Come to my gym, do a photo shoot there, do whatever there.
Yeah, you've had a lot of big names come through, right?
I mean, a lot of social media people and stuff, I guess. But no, that was never the intention from the beginning. At first, we hardly ever had anybody, and there was our playground. It was fun, and it didn't matter that we were taking a loss of $5 to $20 grand each year.
That's what I was getting ready to transition into. Talking about the numbers, and where do you think you could have improved, and where do you think you might have went wrong, and overall, what made you decide that getting out of the gym business might have been in your best interest?
Yeah. So by the time this airs, I will have a YouTube video out about this exact thing. We'll just put that in the show notes, because that's a whole other topic for people who are specifically interested in that, because I've made a couple of Instagram posts alluding to the fact that the gym never made money, that it wasn't really a successful venture.
But you had diversified your businesses, right? If you would have never started online training,
right?
Do you think you guys could have sustained an income just on personal training?
Well, we would have never opened the gym in the first place. Online training came before the gym.
Okay.
And that's where I got the startup cost for the gym. So we got the Cleveland Browns equipment, and that was essentially just from me paying off student loans, having a little bit of money saved.
Okay.
And then the initial build out for the gym, I mean, even having all of the equipment that we needed, the build out alone was about $60,000. And that's just mirrors, turf, power outlets, painting, putting your logo on the wall, a desk up front. I mean, silly things. And it adds up so much. And the only reason I had that capital was from my other business.
Yeah.
So the online business kept the gym alive and fed it. And you know, I was able to justify it completely because it brought me so much joy and creativity, and I just loved being in there. I loved being able to offer to all of my clients. You know, I train people from all over the world, and I tell them, anytime you're in Columbus, come train with me, you know, at my facility. And I loved that.
Yeah, it's something that doesn't have a direct ROI, but you don't know what kind of ROI it actually was making on your, like you said, your energy levels, your your entire physical being. Like maybe you wouldn't have even had the notions to do certain things otherwise if that gym wasn't there to inspire you.
Well, you and I have had that conversation a million times, and I never thought about it like that until, you know, I was faced with the tough decision of what do I do here within the last 9 months. And you know, you were like, we were talking about could we do it again, and you mentioned
yeah, you know, I'm glad that I was able to help you in those kind of ways. And it's weird, especially being you know, being your boyfriend and having to be in a position of listening to, man, this kind of situation. And it was hard to step back and really be objective and take my ego out of the situation as well, because a big part of me wanted to say, fuck this, fuck that guy, take all that shit. You know, and maybe in my younger years I would have, but you know, at the end of the day, you know that you really love someone when all you can think about is your future together, and what steps now are you making that are going to impact that positively or negatively. And it was easy for me to sit back and say, wow, this is a horrible decision. Yeah, financially, stress-wise, time-wise, we've got too much other stuff going on and planned.
Yeah, no, that was the major thing. And towards the very end, we both I remember we had 2 hours where we both had an ego one day.
Yeah.
And we were like no, whatever, let's keep fighting for that. And then we kind of took a step back, and you're like, no, think about what that actually means. And I'm like, okay. You're like, all right, let's wash our hands clean of this. Let's move on.
Yeah.
You just have way too much going for you as far as future plans and things we're going to do together. And that was just what I needed to hear in that moment.
Yeah. And I think a gym one day is very big possibility. It's something that Erin and I have talked about a lot. You know, I grew up in a gym. My family owned a gym growing up. From the time that I was 9 until, I think I was probably 8 until 13. And those were pretty important and transitional years for me, and being in that environment was awesome. It planted seeds of work ethic and sweat and grit, and you know, a lot of that kind of stuff that I always envisioned raising a kid in the same sort of environment, hopefully a little bit better. The gym that I grew up in was interesting.
We'll get into that when we do yours.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But so let's talk about your future plans, where you're at right now. You know, you're a very inspired individual right now. You're an Erin that I haven't seen in a while, maybe ever. You've got a lot of just a light in your eyes and a fire in your ass, for lack of better words. Let's talk about that. What changed? Where was your turning moment here of ambition and getting your fire back?
Yeah, so things had already started to go in a really great direction. Everything legally with the divorce was wrapping up, and it wasn't so much a weight on me. It was just a matter of, you know, I can't move on with anything until I cut ties here and figure out. And so in January, I reached out to Mike Zeller and decided to join his mastermind. There were a couple of group calls before then, but then we had an event in April, and I came home from that, and it was just aha, I know all of the entrepreneurial secrets now. I really felt that way. I've never been in an environment like that with so many young entrepreneurs who are doing it, who are so confident in themselves, who are talking about doing it. And I talk about, you know, just the power of people believing in you all the time. I talked about Jason from Pi Yoga and Fitness, the very first person who was just why don't you do this? And he has no idea, but that literally was I don't know, why don't I? And when people say that kind of stuff to you, it's yeah, why not?
I think that positive reinforcement or almost door being open can go the other way as well. I can remember growing up, you know, having an idea and somebody being no, that's stupid. Just that little comment from somebody who's young and impressionable, you will make them believe that that's stupid.
I don't think you have to be young by any means.
You're right.
I mean,
you're right. Yeah.
Even now, but both times I was at a pivotal point in my life with, you know, deciding what I was doing career-wise and him just inviting me to teach in a studio, and then Finally, literally, it was the day after the divorce was finalized and I signed the papers to say the gym is no longer mine. I got on a plane and we had our first event for the mastermind, and I showed up there and I had to prepare a presentation for my online business. I had Mike Daner, one of the top marketers in the country, who is number 2 in Dr. Axe, on their way to being $1 billion corporation. Really super smart marketing guy. Took a look at my business and just kind of like shook his head like, wow, like do X, Y, and Z, like you're 2 steps away. And I was just like, okay, like, yeah, like I'll do that. And so I've just had so much momentum since then. Not only him, there were just so many like smart minds there and so many people who just wanted to bring you up and pick you up. And they're like, 15-hour days that we spend for this weekend, and everything, the presentations and everything are so informative, but it's just kind of like the one-off conversations that you might have at lunch too. Someone pulling you aside and saying, what's your direction with this? And you're like, well, kind of want to do it this way. And they're like, well, like, why are you passionate about that? They'll just keep pulling the right questions out of you. And I called you while I was there and kind of laughed about it because I was sitting off by myself and I'm like, I haven't had a minute alone. And you're like, you probably hate it. I'm like, normally I would absolutely hate that. But every conversation that I've been having, like, is one that I want to have. And it's just like an environment that I'd never been around before. Aside from you, I don't have friends who are entrepreneurs who are like wanting to talk about ideas constantly. So that definitely was a major, like, just light bulb moment for me.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I can definitely attest to her just change in attitude and mindset towards growth and towards possibilities as well. Now we're talking about the impacting millions and millions of people, not hundreds of thousands of people. And that's also ultimately what it comes down to. You can look at growth and aspirations in terms of dollars or in terms of impact. And I think that the more sensible and the more altruistic way is to, how can we impact more people? How can we get more people to positively leave our mark on? And yeah, she's just been gung-ho about that, and it's been really cool to watch and to be a part of. So let's talk a little bit about future plans. I know we've kind of touched on that. Something that I've been pushing Erin a lot lately is trying to get peeled again and get yoked and get on stage with me, because I'm sort of in this phase now where I'm competing and I want to do another prep in August. So I've kind of like been playing the seed in her ear and in her head and wanting her to compete with me again. And what are your thoughts on that? And do you think that's ever going to happen with me or alongside me?
Well, since seeing a female that you're close to go through prep, you've changed your mind a little bit.
It's
too.
true, yeah.
That's one thing. Competing is just so much different for guys and girls. And Jordan's really never like watched a female go through it like super closely. No,
Megan, by the way, so Erin's sister Megan, who's a fitness entrepreneur as well. She's competing right now, and she's actually she's a show tomorrow that we're going to. Yeah, and watching that process is very terrifying. Megan is one of the coolest girls I've ever been around. She's one of my best friends, and just seeing how it does affect a female's physiology and brain. Definitely makes me a lot less apt to want to push Erin into that. So.
Well, we just have to push harder. We just aren't, made to get that lean.
Yeah.
So it's just, it happens. And there was a period of time where I was really, really good at it, but I was also, you wouldn't have liked me at all. I was so tunnel vision. I was so, I had my goals that, and my priorities that were my clients, and they were my physique. I had, absolutely no time for a relationship. I wouldn't have cared about that. I wouldn't have been anywhere on my priority list. So that's a tough balancing act. And I think, like, maybe my first 3 seasons, I was totally cool with just, like, robot mode.
Yeah.
And so by my 3rd season competing, I was the best conditioning I'd ever been in. And I was a figure competitor. I think a lot of people always think I did bikini, but when I started, bikini, like, was something that got made fun of.
Yeah.
So I never did bikini because everyone was like, no, girls who lift don't do bikini.
Yeah. A lot of girls probably barely lifted and did bikini, right?
Yeah. Like, it was kind of a joke. Like, everyone was around like, no, you don't want to do that. So I did figure, but I'm still, like, on the smaller side of figure. So in 2013, like, my 3rd season, best conditioning I ever had, hardest I'd ever pushed, and I placed worse than I ever had. So that for me was kind of like, I wasn't upset by any means because I understood the sport and I understood the subjectivity and I understood you know, what it was, and I wasn't that, not as a figure competitor.
Was that an NPC or still in national
That was
circuits?
an NPC, yeah.
Yeah. So was this around the time the figure was starting to develop into larger physiques, larger?
Yeah, well, it already was. I did well in natural shows.
Yeah.
Being as like just kind of naturally petite, is that a word?
Yeah.
More petite frame.
Yeah.
But then in NBC, I couldn't really hang, and so I got to that choice of, you know, what do I want my body to look like versus what does NBC want it to look like.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I was totally cool walking away from that show. Like, I think I got third or fourth, and I had never placed below third before. But it was my best conditioning, so I was like, this is great, this is whatever. And it was funny because, like, people who had supported me all along the way were pissed. They were like, you're not mad? I'm like, no. Like,
yeah.
That's not how this works.
Yeah.
At least that's how I felt. So that year, I kind of went back to the drawing board, said, all right, you know, if you're going to do this, you know why you're doing it now. It's just for you. It's just to get in good shape, blah, blah. That's also the year that I quit my full-time job. I opened a gym. My revenue doubled. I was working with twice as many online clients, and so I didn't sleep very much. My entire focus was on my clients and my growing businesses. So that prep, I really struggled, and I didn't put everything into it. I know I didn't. I got on stage probably about, you know, I probably had 5 to 6 more pounds to lose, and funny enough, as I placed better at that show than I did the year before, because all they really cared about was size.
Yeah.
But, you know, I told myself after that show, if you're going to do something and you're not going to, like, put everything into it, like, don't do it.
Yeah.
So I, since then, kind of diverted my focus to my clients and things. And I still can't say I'm in a point where I just want to put everything into it.
No, I understand. Erin's actually going through a cut right now with her coach, William. Shout out to William Grazione, really awesome coach. If you guys have not heard of him, definitely check him out. He's very knowledgeable and well-spoken. Really, really good guy. And they're working together, and it's fun to watch her kind of scratch the surface of what it's like to see Erin in a deficit. And
oh, you haven't seen anything. Yeah, this is nothing.
Yeah,
like,
but
when I get really focused,
yeah,
you would hate me.
So I don't want that. I don't want that at all. But no, I think we've covered a lot, and as you guys continue to listen to us, we're going to dive back into these subjects and talk about a lot more, you know, kind of like when you watch a movie first and then you go back and watch it again and you find things that you missed. There's going to be a lot of things within Erin's story that she probably didn't touch on but are going to come up down the road. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we're excited to have you guys.
Right. I'm super excited to just connect in this way. And especially with Jordan, that's kind of how we got this idea. You know, we're always just sitting around and having really good conversations, whether they're personal or about business or about fitness, about psychology. I mean, everything. And we just wanted to get on and share them. So we're super pumped.
Yep. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.